Hello everyone and welcome to this video. So we're going to discuss the potential trade setups that we have for tomorrow and potentially for the rest of the week. We're going to talk about what possibly Nifty could do for tomorrow and for the upcoming week. And we're also going to look at some some clues in the option chain to understand what range Nifty could move in for the next week. So please stay tuned. Okay, so first we're going to talk about Adani Ports. That is our first trade idea for tomorrow. What is the trade idea in Adani Ports? The trade idea is to go short Adani Ports once it breaks this entire region of 340. So once it breaks this entire region of 340, our goal is to go short. So why is that? Okay, let me go step by step. Number one, we see that there is some strong support near 340. A total of 3 times we see it test 340, 341 and go back up. So there is certainly some kind of a support in this region. Secondly, what we see here is we see a potential breakout that had happened at around 368, 369, but that breakout did not materialize. We see this long tail with very high volume, but what we see is rejection. So when this sort of a rejection happens for a breakout higher, it usually means that there could potentially be a move in the opposite direction. So after a failed move comes a fast move. Remember that. So after a failed breakout, you could have a fast move towards the downside. So our trade idea is to go short below 340, 341, potentially for a target firstly of 324. And then if we see some good momentum in the market towards the downside, we could see it even move towards 300. So my first trade idea would be to go short below 340, 341 and put your stops, at the closest hourly pivot. Okay, so this was trade number one. Now let's talk about trade number two. Okay, so now coming to trade number two. So here we're looking at Bajaj Finserv. What is the trade idea? So the trade idea is to watch this entire region closely. We see that Bajaj Finserv has been stuck between 6700 and 6000. So in case it moves below 6000, our goal is to take a short position. And in case it moves above 6700, our goal is to take a long position. So we only take a trade once it either moves below this region or it moves above that region. Some of you might be thinking, is it possible to just try to trade within the range? What does within the range mean? Try to trade whenever it comes here, try to buy and sell when it comes here. So that would probably be a bad idea for now. Why? So we see it's tested the lower range of the band a total of 3 times, and it's tested the upper range of the band a total of 4 times. The more these regions are tested, the higher the probability of the break and the higher the probability of a fast break. What is one more important thing with Bajaj Finserv is the low volume that we see build up. So this entire consolidation has happened with very low volume. This means that whenever we see a break, we should see it with a rise in volume. If we're seeing a break without any volume, we should be a little careful. We could do either two things, either not take a trade at all, or number two would be to take a trade but with a smaller position size. So you should be very careful whenever there is a break for such trades. It needs to be with high volume, and if the break happens with high volume, that trade becomes a high probability trade, and there is a good chance you will end up in the green in that trade. Okay, now let's move on to the next trade. Okay, so the next trade opportunity that we see is in Bharat Petroleum. So what is the trade idea here? So we've seen that this entire 400 region, it acted as a stiff resistance earlier. We saw it test that region once here, twice here, and we can say thrice here. And as soon as that entire 400 region broke out, we saw a good move of about 20% towards 480. And this was a really strong move because it was supported with volume. You see this large volume build up. Earlier, the volume traded was pretty ordinary, but with this break, we saw a large spike in volume. So, such moves, they help us determine that this break is uh, definitely a good breakout and it will give us a good move higher with some momentum. Okay, so what is our trade for now? Our trade for now is to short. It is to short below 400. Why do I say short? So this is our trade. Why do I say short? We've seen Bharat Petroleum bounce off this entire 400 region for about 2 or 3 times. The earlier resistance is now acting as support. The earlier resistance that was here is now acting as support. Also, we see all this volume that had come in earlier, all this volume that had come in earlier, all these stops will be triggered once this moves below the 400 region. This should cause some kind of a good momentum towards the downside. Our initial target will be around 350. And then if we find some momentum after some sort of consolidation, we can expect it to move towards 290 and 250 if we find some more momentum. So these were the 3 trade ideas. Now let's see what Nifty has in store for us for this week. So let's first talk about what happened last week. So last week we saw Nifty gap up on Monday. It was a tremendous gap up. It opened at about 11,730, 11,740 odd. It moved almost towards 11,800, and then what we saw was a continuous sell-off towards 11,330 odd. The next 3 days we saw close to we saw very little price action. There wasn't really anything. We saw some inside bars being put in, and on Thursday we saw a failed breakout of an inside bar. So these were the inside bars that were put in. This was on Tuesday and this was on Wednesday. And on Thursday we saw this bar try to break out higher, but it did not. And as I told you before previously in this video, whenever there is a failed breakout, there is a potential of a fast move in the opposite direction. A failed move causes a fast move in the opposite direction. So what happened on Friday? On Friday, we saw a gap down, some choppy price action, but we saw a fantastic close for bears. We saw a close right at the low of the Monday bar, right at the low of this bar. So we saw a close at 11,300. So this is a great sign for bears, and I expect this week as well, we should see some kind of a momentum for Nifty. So the first spot that I'm watching out for is the 11,100 spot, and then I'm watching out for 10,800, 850. So my personal opinion would be that Nifty finds some sort of a support at around 11,100, and then if it has to move lower, it will resume its journey lower. So my targets for this entire down move, firstly would be 11,100, and then we can analyze what it's exactly doing. Also, one important thing to note here is since the entire rally has begun, Nifty was trading in this sort of a very nice trend. It was obeying this trend line religiously. We saw it obey it very religiously. And then we saw it break that trend line on Monday. And what is good for people who are short, what is good for bears is that the rest of the days of the trading week, all the candles were below that trend line. This is again a great sign. So the charts for now tell us that Nifty should remain below 11,600 and it should give momentum, for a move towards 11,100. So that is my expectation. Now let's quickly hop on to the option chain to see what clues can we get from this. Okay, now let's talk about what the option chain for Nifty is suggesting. First, we see that the call OI is much larger than the put OI. What does this mean? This means that the call writers are ready to take a larger risk compared to the put writers, which means the market as a whole thinks that the market is going to move lower. Now let's, rather than seeing the entire picture, let's understand what at the money and a few legs away from the money options are suggesting. So first we see that roughly at the money, we're obviously seeing a much larger call OI. Also, on Friday, we saw a lot of put writers wind up their position. So right from 11,600 to 11,450, we see that the OI for puts has reduced. This means that there was a lot of unwinding, or there was a lot of position exiting for the put writers, whereas we saw a large OI build up at 11,400. So we see almost 1,216,000 change in OI for the 11,400 contract, and we see steady build up for 11,500. So our expectation for Nifty, just purely based on the OI, would be for it to stay below 11,400 for the next week. We're going to gradually see how that changes. We see the largest put OI at 11,000, simply because it's a round number. So, we shouldn't think too much about it. But what this also suggests is that the put writers do not have enough confidence to write puts that are closer to the money. So the puts that are closer to the money, the puts that are just 2 or 3 legs away, we do not see enough put writers there. We do not see a large OI build up there. We definitely see some open interest, but we do not see OI build up. It's much, much lesser compared to the call writers. So right now, the call writers are much stronger compared to the put writers. We see OI only down at 11,000. So everyone who is long needs to be very cautious, and everyone who is short must be, looking at this as a great opportunity to make some money. So my expectation again for Nifty would be to move lower, at least for the first few days of the week, at least for the first 2 or 3 days of the week. Then we might find some kind of a support. All right, guys. So this was it. Thank you so much for tuning in. And make sure you guys comment down below of what you think I can cover next. I will be really happy to do that. And thank you so much again for tuning in. Thank you.